Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and today I'm doing a kind of a early comparison between my two new kind of main fitness watches, which is the Instinct 2X and the Fenix 7 Pro. Now typically I do these videos further down the road, once I'm ready to sell one and just keep one. So I did this last year when I had my Instinct 2 and the Fenix 7. I ended up choosing the Fenix, or I chose the Instinct 2, sold off the Fenix 7, but then the Pro came out, so then I got the Pro, and a lot of folks said to try the 2X, so now I got the 2X. I'm back to having 2 again, and normally I wouldn't be ready to make this decision, but a few folks have asked, so I am going to make a decision here, but it might be a little bit different than probably expected, but let's talk about both of these so far. So I've had this one since launch. This one I've had for, I don't know, a month now or so. And, you know, the gap is getting closer and closer between these, and it's going to make it harder and harder to pick. So first, kind of talk about the obvious, the strengths of each one. So if we look at the size, now the Instinct is the larger watch. This is a 51 millimeter, I believe. This is 47. So the Instinct 2X is now the bulkier watch, at least for me. I've always gotten the 47 because the 7X has always been too large for me. So now this one's kind of taken over in terms of size, but weight is still the advantage of the Instinct 2. So despite it being bigger, it still feels more comfortable. Where it gets kind of, I think, very close is when you put on one of these Velcro straps. I've said this before, these Velcro straps make this watch wear much more comfortable than kind of the rubber straps. The main reason is the watch, you can kind of really just get the perfect fit then, because you got more adjustment and there's a little bit of flex to it. So with this, ever since I switched to these Velcro elastic bands, I've found this watch to wear and feel smaller than it has before, if that makes sense. So the comfort gap has kind of increased on the Fenix due to the strap, and the comfort has kind of decreased a little bit on the Instinct due to the size and obviously a little bit more weight. So that's, it's kind of gotten closer than when it was before. Before, they felt like a little further apart in terms of comfort, but now it's pretty close in this setup. But obviously, this is still lighter, and this is heavier, so there's still a little bit of a discrepancy. But honestly, in terms of comfort in this setup, it's a draw now, because even though it's heavier, it feels a little more comfortable. This one is the opposite. Even though it's lighter, the size kind of, makes it a little bit noticeable. So I feel like it's almost now a kind of a tie for me in comfort. But they're still very comfortable in the setup. The display, when I compare the display of each of these predecessors, I found that the Instinct 2 display was actually better in terms of just legibility. Obviously this one has color and etc., but the predecessor, the Instinct, had just a better contrast, was much easier just to read the basics, read the time, just a quick glance. It always looked better to my eyes. But again, I feel like the gap has been closed now, where they improved the Fenix 7 Pro with an improved display that kind of sharpened it up a little bit, and now it is a little bit more visible in like a dimly lit room. In the light in the sun, it's always good, but when you put it in like a darker room and you kind of just glance at your wrist, the Instinct or the Fenix always kind of struggled there. You always have to kind of, tap it on to turn it on. I'm not sure why it's not working to see it. But now with this new display, when it's just kind of a little bit off, kind of at an angle, you just want to see the time, I feel like it's improved. So once again, it kind of, makes them a little bit more tougher to select now. But obviously, the win here still goes to the Fenix because of the color. So for your basic kind of, just checking the time, some stats, obviously it's not a big deal, but for me, I am a fan of the touchscreen as well. Even didn't think I would be, but I have grown fond of the touchscreen, mainly for shortcuts, because now if I, need to get somewhere, I just hit the shortcut, but you don't have to kind of scroll through everything to get where you need. Now I just, click on whatever, whatever I want to see, whether I want to see my HR, you can just kind of click a little quicker to where you need to. So I do love the touchscreen, and obviously the color also does kind of help a little bit with seeing things a little better, right? So you can see things just in more detail than with the color display than obviously on this kind of mono contrast one. So if I try to pull up, let's like look at the weather here. I disconnected this from my phone so it wouldn't keep popping up, but so you can kind of see. So if we go look at the same thing, the weather, so you can kind of just see that it's certainly, you get the gist of it, but obviously the color just adds a little bit extra information. Like I can already see the yellow sun without really having to kind of like analyze, is that a sun or is that rain or whatever. But so the colors just help. It is a nice touch. I really do wish that the Instinct added color to it. Would have been nice. That would have made it even more difficult. But I feel like eventually they will. I feel like eventually this will just become like a plastic Fenix, because I feel like they keep adding more and more to this one, that I think it's going to get more and more closer as they run out of ideas. So the display, I think the Fenix wins due to color mainly. The other part too that now makes it difficult is that they both have flashlights. So the flashlight feature I love. I'm like obsessed with the flashlight feature. Honestly, it's been probably the best feature that Garmin has added in a long time is the flashlight. I use it at least once a day, I love it. But here's the difference. They both have their white LED, but then this one has a red as its second color, and this one has green. And I gotta say, I prefer the red. So I like the Fenix's red LED over the Instinct's green. I'm not sure why. I just find it, I don't know, easier on the eyes at nighttime. The green's a little bright, but that's maybe a personal preference. But I found that interesting that they chose green for this one and red for that one. Not sure what maybe there's some tactical, this is the tactical version, so perhaps the green is just a better color for that purpose. I don't know, but that's also one difference between colors. Where these kind of drift apart now is battery life. So the Instinct 2, I actually just charged for the first time, I think was it yesterday, day before, and I didn't need to. The battery on this thing is insane. This is actually, I think, really like a G-Shock at this point. I actually am going to run an experiment and compare this to a G-Shock eventually, where I'm going to charge them both up and let them sit to see if like, how long they can last. And I think the G-Shock will win because it's got ultimately the battery saving feature which will power it down. This doesn't have that, but with frequent use, I think they'll just both go indefinitely, but that's coming down the road. The Fenix 7, its new trick up its sleeves is that it now has ECG. So they finally added that where you can, test your heart health. Let's see if I can pull that up even. So now you can actually, so now you just hold it like this and you can, test your, your heart health. I'm going down at once, but it's got that now. So that's a neat trick as well. So overall, you can kind of see that it's a hard choice between these watches. Obviously, the other big difference is the price. This watch comes in at probably, depends on sales or timing, etc., but it's about half the price of the Fenix, and I think that's where the decision lies. If you're on a budget, you're trying to really spend as little as possible, then hands down, this is, I think, the best watch for the money is this one. That's kind of no-brainer. If, money isn't a concern and you just really want kind of the best watch, you know, not to say that this still isn't an option, but I think the Fenix is still probably the better option. So now we get to the point where I would typically, you know, further down the road say, all right, I got to sell one, and which one do I want to keep? And in this case, it's a very hard choice, but I am going to sell something. And actually what I'm going to do, I think, is I am going to keep the Fenix 7, at least until its replacement comes out, to see if it warrants a switch. But what I think I am going to get rid of is my G-Shocks, because I honestly think this new Instinct is really kind of the ultimate G-Shock replacement. So I've got several of these G-Shocks that I like as well, and I've always been fond of these G-Shocks for like as my kind of adventure watches. When you go camping, you go fishing, you're going to be near a campfire where something could happen, you know, they could be damaged, broken. You know, I just kind of always liked to use these, but I really think that this is the ultimate G-Shock, and that's kind of how I look at it. I mean, even from like the build, you can kind of see just how it's made, about the same size, same design, same build materials, and kind of geared for really the same purpose. Just obviously this has just way more functionality than this one. Now, I think the one draw folks might have is that this obviously requires charging and requires a phone, but not so much, because this has an incredible battery life. You can actually put it into battery saver, which will then just kind of function as like a regular watch, and that will give it, you know, almost unlimited battery life as long as you're getting some sun exposure. And then the phone app isn't necessary, right? This watch will function just fine without the phone. The only thing the phone adds is your notifications. So I think, you know, your email alerts, text alerts, weather, etc. That's all you need the phone for. But otherwise, this will function the same way. You'll get the time, you'll get your compass, your altimeter, your barometer. So you'll still get all those sensor data like this one. So I feel like this is a great replacement for my G-Shock, and that's actually what I'm going to do. I'm actually going to keep the Instinct 2 and probably end up selling these two watches, and then this will kind of be my new G-Shock / fitness watch. So I'll wear this kind of interchangeably with my Fenix just for my regular day-to-day wear, but then this will be my de facto kind of adventure watch as well, because I do think these are both good. It's gonna be, at least at this point in time, I couldn't make a decision if I had to pick one, but I don't see myself ever wearing my G-Shock again as long as I have this in my rotation, because I just think this is just that plus more. But yeah, so that's kind of the short-term comparison, is that these are both amazing watches. I mean, I've been using fitness watches for probably 10 years, and I've always tried different brands, different types, but I've been, you know, in the last probably 2-3 years, the Garmin line has just, I think, taken off, and no one's been able to touch them, to the point where I don't even look at other watches. At this point, I feel like Garmin owns that space, and I really don't even look at other brands anymore, just because nothing compares. The only one I think I would look at would be like Amazfit, and that's strictly because of price. Those watches do offer a lot of value for, you know, a quarter of the price. So those watches I think are still worth a look just because of its competitive price, but I still don't think they're anywhere near as good as Garmin. So yeah, I hope this helps you make a decision. Actually, no, for weight, let me just do a quick weight comparison, because maybe in case that's a critical stat for someone. Let me, okay, so we got this in grams. So as it sits, we're looking at 68 grams for the 2X, and then the Fenix 58. Now that doesn't sound right. How can this one be heavier? Maybe it is heavier. 68, wow. 57. So that's kind of interesting. Maybe it's the strap is probably what's doing it. So hang on a second. Let's make this a little more fair. Let me get the straps for this one, so we have a little bit of a fairer comparison. And there we go. Wow, these straps. So actually, this is interesting. That these straps weigh so much. I never realized that. Maybe that's why this feels so much more comfortable, as the weight savings. That's interesting. So these Garmin straps weigh 22 grams. Wow. Honestly, I never would have guessed it compared to this one, which wears 5 grams. So that's kind of an unexpected surprise, to be honest, and maybe that explains it, because like I said, I've been a huge fan of these Velcro straps. I've actually got some on order for my Instinct as well. I just haven't arrived here, but as you can see, I've got a bunch of them because I'm all in on them now. So I ended up getting a bunch. These unfortunately are too thin or too narrow for my Instinct too, but maybe, so I think that actually explains, perhaps at least adds to the comfort of the Fenix, why it does feel so much like lighter on the wrist and just more comfortable. Is that I just never would have guessed it, how light these are. Yeah, this one's 5 grams, so that's interesting. So actually, I never thought would I see this, but so it is that the Instinct is actually lighter. Yeah, 68, or heavier, 68, and then about 11 grams lighter. So that is very interesting. So there you go, the mystery solved. Why I'm finding the Fenix to be a little bit more comfortable than in previous times. So yeah, like I said, I mean, I did actually just receive, I'll make a video about this maybe later today or tomorrow, but I did get some new straps for the Instinct too. They are rubber ones, but I also have some of these on order too, just these arrived first. So once I get a chance, I'll make a quick video and give you guys some links to those. But all right, that's it for this one. Thanks for tuning in, and I will catch you on the next one.